Okay, so that's lower, kind of low, middle low, upper low, middle,
Middle, wait, whoa.
lower high, I've got that, lower high, middle high, kind of high, and high.
Can we not use like ABCs?
Yeah, we could use that. I just didn't know. I wanted to have it where you could understand.
Kind of
Or
low.
not?
Well, there it is.
Lower high. Kinda high.
No, you could.
Are you high? Dr. Burgess, you know I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
Jessica?
Whatever.
Whatever.
Aw, Dr. Burgess, I really enjoy you.
So that's okay. So now help me out here. Let's do it. Let's do this.
Okay.
How many you got here?
7.
7? That's okay. I didn't know if it was 6 or 7.
11.
Yeah.
Okay.
Got 11.
3. 5.
9.
3.
No, that much.
5. 3.
3? Yeah.
Okay. How many got half then? 18, 21, 35, 45, 55, 58. 58?
Sounds great. Sure.
Huh?
You were really fast.
So,
Yeah.
29.
He's a statistician.
Okay. So where is the median?
Right there.
Right there.
No, tell me which, this is a 58 person here. And this one down here is the first.
That's 29.
At 29,
I guess.
What? You want the median?
Wait, yeah, what did you ask for, the median or the?
Median.
Oh, okay.
how many is there between 29 and 58? What's the difference?
Should be 29.
29, how many is there between 1 and 29?
29.
Well, if you
Oh.
consider.
But you got the rounding up thing.
No, don't round up.
20.
I mean, seriously,
28.
huh?
28?
29.
If you have 28, how many is between 1 and 28?
27.
27, how many is between 28 and 58? 30, so it ain't that.
What is it?
Let's do 29. How many is between 1 and 29?
28.
28, how many is between 29 and 58?
29.
29. If you want to get it halfway in between, you want to get, there you go. It'd be 29 and a half, wouldn't it?
28 and a half, sir.
So this would make it 28 and a half, and this would be 28 and a half. 29 and a half would be halfway between 1 and 58. In other words, the 29th one goes down here, and the 30th one goes up here. From 30 to 58, there is 29 folks. From 1 to 29, there's 29 folks. And so it's cut right in the middle of them. Now just do that. Draw it if you have to. Do the math. Do the how many people are in the bottom half, how many are in the top half. Where do you have to stop? You have to stop somewhere above 29, somewhere below 30. The best way to do it is 29 and a half. Let's count down 29 and a half and see where the median is. How many is this? 7 plus 11?
18.
18 and 3
21. 26.
and 5?
26.
26 and 9?
35.
Or 34?
Oh.
26 and
35.
9, 35? Yeah. So where would it be?
It would be,
It would be in this one right here, isn't it? It'd be in that one. They're all grouped together. It would be there.
Is there any reasoning to your labeling there, or is that?
Yeah. High is higher than kind of high, and kind of
Okay,
high is
great.
higher
That's
than
what I
middle
was-
high, and middle high is higher than lower high. I just didn't want to use numbers because then you'll try to want to average them or something. It's not the,
Gotcha.
it's just ordinal, okay? It's just middle high is higher than lower high.
And lower than higher high.
And, yeah, higher than middle, or medium, or whatever. Now, if this right here, 29 and a half, is the, what we said was? The median, and this is the upper limit, and this is the lower limit, okay? Then where is the third quartile?
Towards 58, between those two. Yeah. 29 and a half, 58.
It wouldn't be 29 and a half on to 29 and a half.
It'd be whatever's in the middle of 29 and
It would be,
59 and a half and 58.
no, between 30 and 58, right?
Where, what would it be?
It'd be in the very middle of 29 and a half and 58. Right?
What's in the middle of 29 and a half and 58? Sure you do. If you made a 29 and a half on one test and a 58 on the other the other test, what did you average?
Something and a quarter or something and 3/4.
Huh? Yeah, that's right, it'd be either a quarter or
I'm
three
working
quarters.
through it, I promise.
43 points, 75.
3/4.
Okay? And where would that be?
In between 29 and a half.
There's 58, how many do I have to go down? From 58 to 43, how many do I have to go down?
14.
14. Oh, I only have to go to here, don't I? It's kind of high. Between kind of high and medium is,
Lower high?
no, is kind of high and kind of high is the third quartile.
Yes.
I think we did pretty darn high.
We could have had pretty darn high, but I didn't use that number, that description. Now, let's figure
PD.
the first quartile.
As opposed to each.
Is that 15.25?
Yeah.
15.25, where is that at?
So you have to go 14.25.
Keep going.
That's
We go,
8.
that's 8,
Keep
That's
going.
13.
13,
It's at
That
a
Upper.
yellow. I don't know.
Upper low?
that's the upper lower.
Upper lower.
Look at the difference here. Look at the difference from upper lower and kind of high. You just had to go down into the second category to get the third quartile. Here you had to go into the fourth category to get the first quartile. It's just these are little bitty frequencies here. These are a bunch of big frequencies up on that end. You got all of them now. And the interquartile range would be this distance from upper, lower to kind of high. Okay? If you don't, you label them, if we had that many different kinds of grades, A, B, C, D, kind of thing, you know, we could do the same thing. And you say, well, geez, you know, I can't figure my GPA then. If all courses were 3-hour courses, sure you could. The number of A's, the number of B's, the number of C's that you had. If you had equal numbers of A's, B's, and C's, what would your GPA be?
B.
Which would be
2.0.
3.0.
Yeah.
If you had half A's and half B's, what would your GPA be? 3.5. You know, that's a pretty simple kind of thing. So you say, oh my gosh, you know, yeah, we do all kinds of things to, we make something that looks really numeric out of something that is ordinal. You know, when do you get an A in a course? According to the university.
Or 91.2.
Or 91?
Or 89.5.
Well, that's been the professor.
Yeah, I don't think the university says 89.5.
I know Dr. Strong, he likes a point scale. He likes a raw point scale.
Yeah. So anywhere between 90 and 100. Wonder how many 90 A's there are versus 100 A's there are.
Probably.
A lot more.
There's a lot more 90 A's than there are 100 A's. I'll bet you
You
that.
can look at the bell curve and know that.
Huh?
How do you grade? Is it a soft grade? What's an 89.5 in your book?
It's on points.
Okay.
It's a point scale.
I don't
But
know.
it's
Get
a-
my,
it's a-
I have my mouth on, but his points are
But is that
down.
discrete?
But it ultimately would be pass fail. isn't it?
Yeah, 80% is passed.
Actually, it's SU. I just had a little discussion about that. You know, someone said, oh, it's graded on the pass fail. I said, no, it's graded on the SU. It's the same thing. And I said, that's funny. I want to see if you get a pass fail on your grade. You get an SU. Well, it means pass fail. I
Satisfactory
said,
or unsatisfactory?
pass fail is SU? I think that SU means satisfactory, unsatisfactory. I don't think it means pass fail. It means satisfactory, unsatisfactory. But that's why they use S for satisfactory, U for unsatisfactory.
Besides the semantics, what's the difference? Okay. Okay.
One has got four
The
syllables.
truth comes
One
out.
has got four syllables, and pass has just got one syllable.
I'd rather say pass fail, that's shorter. I know how to spell those.
Fail was such a harsh word.
Range is used with
What?
what kind of data? Range can be used with what? It can be used with ordinal data. It can be used with interval data.
Hey, hey, hey.
It can be used the ratio.
It can be used with ratio
I'm
data.
educated.
Range.
The same way.
Ordinal ratio.
Interquartile range. Huh?
Can be used with ordinal interval ratio.
Ordinal interval ratio. Semi-interquartile range.
Ordinal interval.
Ordinal interval ratio. We're going to come back to semi-interquartile range. Okay. How about, and several of you have said that, and I think there's a note down here somewhere or another that says we don't use very many of these very often. The ones, all that foolishness, we don't use it very often. Probably ought to use it more often. Things like interquartile range and median. You know, the best example I would use is a group like this with Bill Gates in the room and ask for average income. Is the mean the best income to tell the typical income? What would be better? The median would be better. So if the data are not symmetrical, okay, if the data are not distributed symmetrically, then there's a pretty good chance that mean may not be either the best thing to report or it may not be the only thing you ought to report. And I would say if we wanted to give the typical income, I had a current student visit me come on Friday afternoon. She's getting ready to do her prelim exam, a written and oral prelim exam. And she was a math major. And she graduated from here with a degree in mathematics. And she said, I love that. I was an actuary for a couple of years for a life insurance company. And she said, I just really didn't like it. So I got back on, student work now, and she loves her job. And she said, then I took my statistics courses, and it wasn't nearly as easy as math. I said, really? She said, oh my God. Math was elegant. Math was simple. Math was beautiful. Why was math so simple? why was math elegant
You
to
know,
her?
you know what you're gonna run into. You can predict what's gonna happen.
Okay, so
You don't have to take words and turn them into numbers.
exactly. There was a right answer. There was the right answer. There was a single right answer to a math problem. Every time she said, I don't know, I've never taken a math class. So, no, seriously. So, you know, she said, but she said statistics wasn't like that. She said they would say, well, you know, what's the most appropriate way to express the typical or average income for a group of students? And she said, there wasn't a single correct answer. It was always, well, it depends on, or with some level of uncertainty. She said there were way too many those kinds of things. She's exactly right. So you've got to engage brain, and more than just there's an elegant, correct, single right answer, and that's why it's important that you express. And they say, well, I want to report the mean, but when I could report the mean, or if I calculate the mean, I see that it's not very typical for students in the class. It looks to me like, you know, we've got a bunch of undergraduates that don't work. But really, most typical income is 0. That's not the mean. It's not the median. What is it? It's the mode. That's the most appropriate value. Do you want to stop there and just say the mode is 0? Is that where you would stop? No, you might go ahead and report, depending on the rest of the data. What else? When would you report the mean and when would you report the median if mode was really the typical? Under what conditions would you report the mean, and under what conditions might you report the median?
If there wasn't a lot of outliers, or any outliers, would you report the mean?
If you had no outliers, it was from 0 to some, you know, pretty, after 0, which was, you know, 45% of the students, then the incomes were pretty much distributed across with no way out in left field kind of thing. Means probably okay. But again, if you had Bill Gates there in the room, even though the typical income was 0, you still wouldn't want to report the average. You wouldn't want to report the arithmetic average. You wouldn't want to report the mean. Wouldn't be indicative of his income, and it wouldn't be indicative of anyone else's income in the room. What good would it do to report the average income? The mean income was $1 billion.
Is it ever appropriate to report those and almost attempting to point out that this is why we didn't use them because they're so far?
Absolutely. You know, I would say that some editor might say this is pedantic or something, and you don't need to do that. But I wasn't trying to be pedantic. I was just trying to be instructive.
But would you just indicate skewness, or,
We don't even know
I
what
know.
that is.
but is that how you would do
We
it?
might. Distribution. What other kinds of measures of distribution might we report? The range, yeah, we said that one. We said interquartile range and semi-interquartile range.
Parameters?
Standard deviation.
Standard deviation and variance. Which one? Standard deviation or variance?
Well, if the deviation is standard, then you would report standard deviation, otherwise variance.
Is that correct? What she said.
You know, I can't really think of a situation where I would report the variance. What is the relationship between standard deviation and variance? Is there a relationship between them?
Yes, standard deviation is variance.
Well,
That's regular.
but squared.
What?
The square root, you have to get the square root of the standard variance to get the standard deviation.
Right. Standard deviation. Again, sorted by definition, I want to come back to that because I want to clarify a point I tried to make last week. And I really thought afterwards, that's not really right. Standard deviation is, by definition, the square root of variance. Okay? And variance is allowed to be some goofy number. If you had a test, if you gave a test, a bunch of students, and you know, it sort of ranged from 30 to 95. Okay? Let's do 30 to 95. And I said, I can't think of a reason where you report the variance, you report the standard deviation. So give me a standard deviation for 30 to 95. Just what would be, might be, assuming that it was pretty symmetrically, or pretty, typically distributed. A's and B's and C's and D's and F's. From 95 to 30. Give me a standard deviation. Would 15 be a decent standard deviation?
Yeah.
I need to tell you the average, don't I? The average was 60 on the test. Ranged from 30 to 95. And the standard deviation was 15. What does that tell you? Kind of.
Well, between the score of 75 and 45, you have roughly 68%.
Yeah, you have some, that's kind of the typical score. The typical score around the mean is somewhere between 45 and 75. Around that mean of 60. The standard deviation was 15. What would the variance be if the standard deviation was 15?
It would be whatever
15 squared is 225. Oh, yeah, the variance is 225. What the hell does that mean? That doesn't tell you anything. It is meaningless. But we got to have it, or we get it, to figure the standard deviation. I'm sure there's a use for variance. We'll come up with that maybe someday. But just think about standard deviation.
Okay, but there's a simpler way to get standard deviation there. We got the standard deviation without using the variance.
No, not really.
I mean, it's needed. But you don't want that at all.
I don't think we got it. Here's how we got it. The way we got it was something like this. We took all of the x's, one to n, okay, and we subtracted from it this.
What is that?
What is that? Someone asked about this. You asked about it with, X bar, and what is that mu signal? That's the sign for some kind of mean. Which mean?
The arithmetical mean?
That's the mean.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. One of these two. Is that the population mean or the sample mean?
The
Sample mean.
Ooh,
Population.
that's the yeah, you got it right.
It's my second guess, but.
Yeah, it's the population mean. What do we call values, statistical values for population? Or what are population values called? Parameters. A parameter, and a parameter uses what are those Greek letters? Okay. That's the population mean. Okay. And then we have to square that. So what we do is we figure first the mean.
Which you said
Okay.
was 60.
Hmm?
You said that was 60.
Yes, we said it was 60. Then we take every single value, subtract 60 from it, and basically, when we subtract 60 from those numbers, 95 and 75 and 80 and all that kind of stuff, and then square it, we get, well, don't even square it yet, we just get positive numbers, okay? When we take numbers below 60 and subtract 60 from it, what do we get?
Negative number.
We get negative numbers. How do we get rid of the negative
We
numbers?
square it.
We square them. So that's why we square them. To get rid of the negative numbers. Okay? To get rid of the negative numbers. There's another reason.
On our test, when you know the equations
No.
for variance,
No,
Is this standard deviation equation right
no, no, no. We're not even, this is neither one yet.
What is this?
Okay? This gives
This gives variance.
the sum of squares.
Sum of squares.
Do we need to know what?
This is the sum of squares.
Okay.
No, you don't even have to write that down. This isn't the.
Oh, this is the SS!
Yeah, that's why I said it.
Oh my gosh.
This is the essence. Oh my God.
which is sum of
You're
squares.
telling me it's time for break.
Oh,
Why didn't you tell me? That's okay.
I didn't even know.
So that's for sums of squares. The teaser is when we come back, we're going to get the rest of this to get variance and standard deviation. I'm sorry, I didn't write it. Y'all gonna have to.
Okay.
I'll go on for 2 hours and 35 minutes.
I believe you.
This is true.
Oh, that's why I don't thought you would make odds.
So what does the 1 minus n mean?
No, that's just from the first x
1
to the nth x.
infinite, okay, whatever.
Yeah.
1 to infinity?
Well, 1 to however many n if there's
Infinity.
1 to
78
whatever?
78